getting enough data. That will be the most impressive challenge.
Over-tourism is a very easy story to blame on.
I think that most of the people don't understand how big is in Indonesia. Interesting questions, but I'm saying if you are not educated in finance, hire someone.
Hello everyone, today my guest is Ilyas Najim, a finance and investment advisor with a strong background in hospitality and real estate. After building a decade of experience in Europe, he brought his expertise to Indonesia, leading finance and asset management for a prominent property developer, and now heading MMI Advisors, where he focuses on strategic investment advisory and hospitality development across Jakarta, Bali, Lombok, and beyond. Good morning, Ilyas.
Good morning, Elena.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Ilyas, let's starting with a little bit of your background. How did your journey in finance and investment started, and what brought you to Indonesia?
Oh, okay. So basically, my background is in investment banking. So I had the opportunity to study finance, corporate finance, and international business and management in France. And after that, like I was, of course, at the end of your master degree, you need to have an internship. So my first internship, I was aiming for M&A at BNP Paribas investment banking, but unfortunately, the job had been given to someone else. So I remember the HR calling me and say, Ilyas, like your candidate, you're a really good candidate. Like we have something else for you. It's related to real estate. It's basically a mix between real estate and investment banking. You're still under the investment banking umbrella. Would you be interested? And I was like, well, that's exactly what I was looking for. My family have been investing in real estate in Morocco. So I had the opportunity to see a building from scratch. And it was super exciting to see all these moving parts. So I was like, can we have a job that is merging basically real estate, construction, development, and high-level finance? And I didn't know it exists at that time. So I joined the BNP Paribas Real Estate Investment Management as an intern at the beginning, as a financial analyst. And then I started my career there. Like I've been recruited there and grew the chain. And yeah, I had the opportunity to work as an asset manager, as a fund manager. I joined also different companies after BNP Paribas, also in the same industry, real estate investment management boutique firms, different strategies. And after a few years working in the investment banking industry, I decided to take a break, which is quite a common story for finance people. There's always this wave where there's, okay, maybe let's take a break and let's take a deep breath. So I decided to travel a bit around the world. So I've been on a world trip for a few years, and I got to visit a second time Indonesia. And we decided with a few partners to come here and to build a boutique hotel at the beginning. That was the idea, that was the plan. But we got here in January 2020. So we had COVID in February 2020. So for us, luckily, we were based in Lombok at the time. So we're still exploring, looking at different opportunities. Lombok is really amazing. Like I love the island. And after a few months, I got to connect with some people over there too, work in the real estate industry, and they offered me to join their company. So I was sitting at the board of a company in Lombok, heading finance and asset management for 3 years, working in different hospitality projects. And after 3 years, I decided to come back to my initial love and entrepreneurial spirit. So with my wife and partner, we created MMI Advisors, where we specialize in advising companies, corporations, private individuals that would like to enter the Indonesian market in general, but in particular to focus in real estate investment ventures. So we have a few developments happening at the moment, and we're here to grow like the consulting part, but we're really, surprisingly, it's on the other side. We're really selective in our clients because we're looking at them as partners, and basically in most of the developments that we have, we are partners and advisors. So this is how I can see the business growing in the future here in Indonesia.
Interesting. What was the most surprising or challenging for you when you first arrived in Indonesia for business, for work?
Actually, the thing is, when you come from investment banking and when you are an asset manager in real estate, there's nearly nothing that surprises you. Like you work in like basically you're kind of a CEO of a small group of properties or of a portfolio. So you get to be involved in taxes, legal, litigations, insurance, development, construction, like everything. So the fact of coming in a new country, I was also involved in pan-European funds. So I was working with Spain, England, or UK, Italy, France, of course, Germany. So working with different cultures, although they are European, but they all have different languages. English is the prominent language of the world, so of course we're all working in English. But when you come to a country like Indonesia, I think that most of the people don't understand how big is Indonesia. It's bigger than the US. It's if you put Indonesia on the map and you look at that diagonal between, in Europe, for example, is from Ireland to Uzbekistan. It's huge. So understanding the different ethnies and cultures in Indonesia was one of the first challenge. A Balinese doesn't live like a Sasak, doesn't live like a Batak. So it's something really interesting actually to understand. Getting enough data, that will be the most impressive challenge that we're still living here for me, because I'm a financial guy. Like in order to have assumptions, I need data. If I don't have data, like I'm just, it's super subjective. And yeah, I would say data. And on the other side, like I'm born and raised in Morocco, so I see a lot of similarities between Morocco and Indonesia. So some administrative challenges. So it's not something that, if I would have been coming from France, for example, fully, I would have seen it as a challenge. But thanks to the background that I have, I see it as something that I can correct or I can adapt to. So I would say, the first two will be adaptation to cultures, and the second one will be data collection. That's the two main challenges.
Yeah, I think the cultural background and understanding of the differences, because that's what quite often we feel people not really thinking about when they're entering the market, and especially now with all emerging destinations like Sumba or Labuan Bajo, Papua. People used to be in Bali for some certain period of time, and they know the personality of the people. They might know the personality of the people. They're expecting the same things to be happening in another destination, but it's completely different world.
Of course.
Sometimes.
Of course. Like there's a lot of, there's I think about 340 ethnicities or ethnies in Indonesia, probably nearly 700 languages. And also not to mention that different religions as well, different beliefs. And some areas are more remote than others, so they're not really used to see foreigners, for example. But I can see that like the government is also playing a huge role on that. Today, it's been already a few years now, there have been a few programs to enhance tourism in Indonesia, for instance, and to make people visit different islands. Because some people in Europe, they might even think that Bali is a country. And I was like, oh my God, okay, geography, guys. But like, Bali is famous. It's one of the top destinations of the world, but Bali is in Indonesia. And Indonesian capital is Jakarta. Of course, now we are talking as well about Danantara, Nusantara, IKN, but Jakarta is the capital. Bali is the top touristic destination in Indonesia, one of the top touristic destinations in the world. But there's a few other islands that the government tried to push forward. Like there's this program of the 10 new Balis that have been transformed to the 5 SPDs, super priority destinations, or you have Lake Toba in Sumatra, Borobudur in Java, Lombok, with Mandalika and the MotoGP. You know pretty well Lombok as well. What was the other one? Labuan Bajo, and I'm missing, and Likupang in Sulawesi. So these areas have different angles to attract foreign tourists, but also local tourists, and yeah, hopefully we will see more infrastructure coming also that will help investors, moving forward, and we will see maybe more facilitations for investors to come in Indonesia. But I've been probably to 4 out of these 5 destinations. I just need to go to Lake Toba. It seems to be a wonderful place. But all of them has this amazing energy. So I really do believe that all these destinations have been really perfectly curated and selected by the government to be a location where, for example, Likupang is diving. Nature is absolutely wonderful. Lombok, of course, there's this mechanical sports around it, but the nature and the landscape is absolutely wonderful as well. There's already an international airport that is quite new, and logistically wise, having a lot of potential. Labuan Bajo, of course, it's Komodo dragons and Fenici and boating and hopefully yachting and maybe marinas as well in that destination, closer as well to Australia. So Borobudur is like this UNESCO, and it's an amazing story around Borobudur. Like it's mystical, and of course the Lake Toba is one of the biggest lake, if it's not the biggest lake of the world. I think just before after Titicaca, if I'm not mistaken. So all these destinations have inherently an appeal to attract people. So now the thing that is, I would say, from an investor perspective, missing in these destinations is a push, probably that should come from government in a way, and the facilitation for investors in terms of taxes or even incentives.
Right.
Because I think that taxes in these SPDs, they are all special economic zones, so there are some incentives in terms of taxes, but it needs to have a master plan that is being a bit pushed and attracting more people internationally, and that's a bit of the challenge. So, like, I would say that these are now the destinations that are supposed to happen. And of course, when investor will go there, they will adapt to the culture, they will adapt to the environment, to the sustainable element inherently that need to be thought through when investing in these locations as well. So, yeah, you mentioned Sumba. One of the top hotels as well in Indonesia is based in Sumba, Nihi. They're also opening in Rote. So, yeah, depending on who you are, you will create a project that make you feel good. And this is what we help people understand, like first who they are and where do they want to go. And according to that, we create a roadmap, and we try to do our best to craft the best space possible. Yeah.
That's good that you mentioned that people want to build something special, right? So understanding what is their needs. Coming to this, who is investing in Indonesia now? You're working with both corporate and the private sector, right? All of those destinations are beautiful by themselves, considering their nature, environment, people, and culture there. I think most of them, what is lacking is the infrastructure, and they might be potentially interesting for investors, right? But they also have to provide something, because as an investor, you're looking into building some hotel, for example, right, or some property, but you cannot build a whole infrastructure around there. You still need support from the government, rather it's local or centralized, right? So who is interested, do you think? And maybe how does the investor profiles change over the years?
Interesting questions. I would say that there is already a close situation between, or bridge between, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Indonesia. They are financial hubs. They have really good tax environment and legal landscape. So I would say that most of the people like we are talking to, they structure their deals with holdcos or topcos in these two countries. So Singapore, Hong Kong. Other angles that are quite interesting that are coming now to Indonesia, Americans from the USA. And I see more and more American citizens or like looking at developing something here in Indonesia, which I wasn't really aware of, let's say, when I was here at first, like from 2019, 2020 until today. On the other side, for Europeans, I think that the situation, actually the worldwide situation is a bit tricky. There's a problem in every continent.
Right.
So I think that they're depending on who we are talking to. Let's say if we're talking to corporations might have some difficulties to move now internationally, but Southeast Asia is a really important geography in the portfolio. In order to open a country in the portfolio, sometimes we need to create a whole team that will follow this country. You need to control, you need to have different audits about how the business is going, etc. So some big corporations might not look at Indonesia today because of lack of resources, simply. But if I come back to the question and I say, okay, who is investing? Europeans, yes, using holdcos usually in Luxembourg or in Switzerland. Asians coming from India, China, Singapore, Hong Kong. Expats living in Singapore, Hong Kong as well. They're looking to diversify their portfolio and to invest in Indonesia. And private individuals, usually people that are tired of living in Europe, for instance. Yesterday, again, I was with some French guy that are just coming here to live here, hopefully in the next year. And they're just like, we cannot stand the situation anymore in Europe. So we want to change our life. So, and I see this happening quite often, actually. Let's say middle class up to upper class, some savings, and wanna just change the lifestyles, dreaming about tropical islands, beach and sun and jungle, etc. And wanna and see Indonesia for the first time, and fell in love with Indonesia. Actually, it's difficult to not fall in love with Indonesia. And yeah, like they looked at the diversity. Usually, they haven't only visited Bali. They came to Bali and they are curious. They want to know more, and they are like, okay, maybe I can start to do a small business in Bali, because they feel that there is more. The environment is friendlier in a business way.
Yeah.
There are international schools, nice restaurants, beach clubs. Yeah, like now also with this new area in Sanur that is targeting health and well-being. So they feel comfortable to come to Bali. Usually they don't go to Jakarta because how they say traffic, no, I don't want to be in the big city, etc. So usually it's Bali, Lombok. Actually, more and more foreigners go into Lombok. Sumba a little bit, East Sumbawa, I would say as well a little bit, and a little bit of Flores. But it's still, I would say, the early stage of huge players that are BlackRock or other big companies or other big banks or big asset managers. I think that they're still looking at how the general economical landscape will evolve. From my understanding, they all want to be here. It might happen over the next 5-10 years, but they are not pushing yet enough cash flow or capital in the country to develop, from what I know, being real estate, hospitality, etc. It's still a small portion out of the potential that Indonesia would receive from these big players.
It's like an observation mode.
Exactly, yeah.
Instability overall in the world, right? I mean, there is political instability all around in every continent, but there is recently also was a political instability inside the Indonesia, and not only that, not to mention the recent weather disasters with all the floods in Bali and other regions, actually. I mean, the news are mostly talking about Bali, but there was another region in Indonesia which was also heavily flooded. aggressive implementation of the zoning policies, which was come up quite unexpectedly for some players, I guess. Plus also not to mention the overall dissatisfaction, I think, of the local population with the overdevelopment and involvement of the foreigners in the processes. How does this influence the current choices? And like, you have to measure quite well those things.
Yeah, sometimes it's quite interesting because sometimes some of my friends or clients, we've been here since a few years now, so we have a network of expats living here and stuff. And when I talk about how I do business, they all tell me, Ilyas, you're so strict in your way of underwriting something. And I would say this will never change because I respect the regulation. So, for example, zoning, I'm happy if the government is destroying an area. Well, it's complicated to say I'm happy for this case in particular because we know what happened in Bingin, for example. There are, of course, like locals that were living there for a while, and but also other people came around and started to build illegally. So I would say if there's illegal building and government come and say, knock, knock, like, bye-bye, we don't want this, fine. That's the regulation. There is a law. So if you don't respect the law, like, you take your own risks. But don't be surprised if tomorrow, like, someone comes to knock at your door and say, you cannot do that. That's forbidden, and you're an outlaw. So I'm really strict on that. So respecting the zoning, definitely. Like, I think that the government already implemented a lot of laws and regulation to create something that is supposed to be sustainable. But with players coming from different locations and playing with their own rules, that this is creating this instability in the urbanistic development of Bali, for instance, or potentially also other areas. You mentioned also the flooding. And I will always come back to a topic that is, everyone is talking about, that is infrastructure. If we want to live with nature, and if we want to grow within nature, we need to be able to create the appropriate infrastructure and access to absorb and accept the people that are visiting and living in this island or in any other location over the world. So I would say there's a real problem of infrastructure that is not, in my opinion, related to overdevelopment and over-tourism. It's subjective. And I will just give you a few figures. Like, if we speak about how big Indonesia is on the map, and we speak about the 5 first countries in the world in terms of tourism, like it's hundreds of millions of tourists that comes to China, USA, France, actually number 1, Italy and Spain. Like, this is the top 5 countries of the world. And we compare with Indonesia. We have 14 international arrivals in 2024. This year might be about, let's say, 10 to 15% more. We might reach 15 to 16 million international arrivals in Indonesia. We are talking about a country that has 270 million inhabitants with the size of the US or Europe. So when you increment these 14 million tourists to the size of the country, knowing then probably out of these 270 million, 150 lives in Java. So nearly 2/3 of the total population of Indonesia is in Java. You're like, okay, are we really living over tourism? We cannot talk about that because the figures are not lying. There's no over tourism. Actually, there's the figure of 14, 16 million is too low. And even if we compare with Thailand, which is, let's say, 40 to 60 million tourism, depending on the years, we are behind. And in Vietnam as well. Now Vietnam is kicking off as well. We probably will be behind as well. So we need to boost tourism figures. Does it mean that we need to grow chaotically? No, that's not what I'm saying. We need to have a proper master planning. There are some good news as well happening in Bali. We're talking about the new tolls, the new roads, basically, or between like east-west and north-south. We're also talking about the subway or underground that will go from the airport to Mengui, which is west side of Bali. And we're also talking about the airport at the north that is supposed to be green lighted according to the latest information that have been issued in the news. So these elements will help also absorb the flow of tourism in Bali. But do we have enough hotels? Do we have enough villas? No, we don't have enough. We should have more, but better organization.
Yeah.
You know, that's my take on that.
I think, developing the other region, even though if we're talking just about Bali, we see the drops in number in Canggu. They drastically falling if we're comparing, for example, with the previous years. I see quite a lot of demand in Lombok instead, and it looks like it's keep booming and booming even now when the season here is already going lower. I think over-tourism is a very easy story to blame on. And it's just to close the eyes on all another problems and to say,
I agree with you.
This is the biggest problem where unfortunately no one wants to admit that there is another elephant in the room. It's good you mentioned about following the rule zoning. I absolutely agree with you on that. Risk mitigation and the disaster resilient project. Apart from the following the rules and compliance, the simple compliance, what else the investors or developers can do to protect their investments, basically?
I think at the beginning, before any investment, and we're talking about transnational investments or international investments, the first thing we do, and even at the personal level, before we came to Indonesia, we were hesitating between Philippines, Colombia, and Indonesia. And of course, my partner was also in the finance industry from Toronto, and we were like, okay, first thing first, you do a business plan. So you need to assess what we need. We use a PEST or PESTEL analysis. It's like political, economic, social, technological, ecological, and legal. And you try to understand what is the risk profile of the country itself. So once you do this job and you say, okay, like there are some pros and cons and so on, and you're like, I want to look at something in this country. And then, of course, before looking at something, you already have an idea. Like on our side, we wanted to create a hospitality program, a boutique hotel, which is a asset class that I strongly believe in. So this is where actually we have a pretty interesting expertise. The first thing will be this PESTEL analysis to allocate your investment in a specific country. The second thing, which is related to the first one, it's location. And we will always say location, location, location. PESTEL is also a location. So because you are already allocated or you already dedicated your funds to a country, then you go to an island. Initially, we went to Lombok because we saw that there is this Mandalika plan, $3 billion USD invested in infrastructure. Things are moving. I saw the track myself when it was being built. Pretty big companies involved in the system. So usually, yes, it's a magnet for tourism as well. There's a master plan. There's more than 1,300 hectares under Mandalika responsibility and development program. So you're like, okay, if I'm a small guy coming and following this huge direction, I might have also some returns that can be interesting. So location, then also underwriting the proper assumptions. When I look at the most of developers' financials in Bali, like, oh my God, like no finance background. So I'm not saying everyone should have a finance background, but I'm saying if you're not educated in finance, hire someone that will assess the figures that you receive from a developer telling you that you're going to make 25% ROI with a payback in 4 years. It doesn't make sense, like no costing is not done properly, no tax assessment, no legal assessment, no licenses, so all these kind of elements. They are important. So underwriting the right figures and assessing the right figures properly. And the other risk, of course, will be we're in the ring of fire. Like we're not located in a flat plateau in the middle of a desert or whatever. Like it is moving over here. Like underground is one of the biggest tectonic move of the world. So we need to be savvy. Like we need to say, okay, if your asset is earning good cash flow with good KPIs, what can I do for the rainy days? What can I do if there's a problem? Anticipation. So if, for example, there's a Mount Agun that erupt, of course you have this smoke and everything. So like you might not receive tourists for 1, 2, 3, 6 months. We never know. So what is your plan in case of a stress case scenario? This is something that I always try to talk about at the beginning. Some people can be afraid of that, so they're like, "Oh my God!" And they just realize what we're doing. Some others really like it because they say, "Okay, these guys, they think about like the full spectrum," and yeah. So this is what I would look at on the risk assessment basis, and the last one, which is one of the most important one, is the operational risk and execution risk, because at one point as well, you need to recruit people to make your business work. If you don't have the proper educational system and like formations for people to be technically available for you, to work with you and to evolve with you, you cannot run on your own. You need a proper team. And for financier, I will finish with this one. Sometimes we're talking about the currency risk. Not even sometimes, like international investors, they are always looking at what is the volatility of the rupiah versus the dollar, the rupiah versus the euro, the rupiah versus SGD, Hong Kong dollar, whatever. And it is complicated to find solutions on that. Some banks can offer hedging options to hedge the currency risk, but most of the people don't do that. So on my side, I'm exposed in IDR. So our business is in Indonesia. Like I'm not selling in USD. And you can look also at some brochures from developers. Most of them, they offer, oh, this is $289,000. I'm like, this is the kind of stuff that for me, as also a foreigner here, I'm like, I'm in Indonesia. Can you just give me the price in rupiah? So then I can do my own calculations. So I would say that being exposed in rupiah, like all your contracts, etc., if the rupiah is going up or down, like the investor, we need to adapt, and we need to have a certain caution to foresee these currency events, which is not easy to anticipate.
I can imagine. Another hot topic is in hospitality, especially now, is sustainability. But again, if we're talking about emerging market and developing destinations, right, it's not that easy to bring any wonderful idea and implement it that easy. And it's not always means the returns, right? Depend on the destination, again, depend on the location. It's much more easier, I guess, now to implement it in Bali. But if we're talking about another remote location, we're adding the top-up cost for everything, right? I know you have an interesting experience with Nusa Penida. Could you share a little bit about that? How to balance the things?
Yeah, like, okay, how can I start to answer to this question? The thing is, Nusa Penida is, first of all, is a beautiful island. There's a lot of mysticism around Nusa Penida. There's a pilgrimage going from Balinese mainland to Nusa Penida. There are cultural events. It's a strong and powerful island in a way. So you have Penida, Chiningan, and Lemongan. The first time I went to Penida was in 2013, and the first time I put foot in Penida, I was like, oh wow, this island is amazing. And it was just for a day trip, and I was like, still, I kept it in my mind, you know. And then But now one of my partners, I got connected to one of my best friends in Europe that owns a M&A agency, and we got to connect. We get along pretty well, and we thought, okay, let's do something in Penida. And okay, what don't we have in Penida? This is how we should start, to assess a program. And we were looking at the market, and there's no luxury hotel in Penida. There is one 5-star that is Maua. There are a few kind of boutique developments, but something that stands out, it's limited, so or non-existing actually. So we're like, okay, the fastest growing market is luxury and wellness. So first of all, let's stick to this segment, luxury and wellness. So we said, okay, let's build something that is luxury wellness in Nusa Penida. At the beginning, we were mainly thinking about having some villas that we would sell, and it always helped the cash flow of the developer and so on. But villas without facilities or without amenities will not work. So that really, the more we were analyzing the asset, the more we were like, okay, the asset that has the most chances to succeed is a boutique hotel development. So we want to be created, incepted, originated in Indonesia. Our main angle is heritage and hipster. So we're trying to mix art with comfort, with nice views, and we want to bring kind of this summer Mediterranean vibe. When you access to the restaurant by boat. So as soon as you arrive, you have this, oh wow, and the more you're moving around, I really insist on the kind of sustained wow effect. It's not just like when you arrive, you make a decision over the first 15 seconds if you like the place or no. That's quite fast. So as soon as you see the place and you are in a good and healthy mindset, even if there are some small mistakes in the room, or the staff is making some small mistakes, or you're still okay. Like you have, you already love the place. It's already marking you. So I really insist on having wow effect throughout the circulations, in the different amenities, having a really good interior design, and having a really good branding. So to answer the question as well, like in order to make sure that we're doing things properly, from my side now, at least the technique is to start with the brand. What do you want to do, and what is the product that you want to create? And we really spend time thinking about the product itself, and to think about the brand. How do you want this brand to touch the emotions of your guests? You need to treat your guests as partners, because they know they've been traveling all over the world. So they know when you present something that is quality, that is genuine, and when you present an artificial fake element. So this is what we're trying to do with this project in Nusa Penida. So we do everything by the books, because we are respectful of the culture and of the regulation of Indonesia. And we really want to grow in a sustainable way. Sustainable is also compliance. It's not only, how do you treat your water? So compliance first. And then, of course, we have some elements about sustainability and CSR that we want to increment in this program. So that's for Nusa Penida. And on the other side, I also have a partner from the US, Jeff, with who we create always a friendship relation. It's important. With whom we are thinking about developing something in Lombok. It's still on the making. I can just say that the project is amazing. It's really it's a cool element. It's a cool stuff. So I would say that yes, developing in Nusa Penida might take us somewhere between 10 to 15% more expensive than in Bali or Java or other locations. Developing in Lombok might be probably the same thing. Although in Lombok we also have other resources that we can use from the mainland, and ideally for us, we would like to limit importations because we believe that we have enough element in Indonesia to build with Indonesian material, and this is basically a pride that we would like to have in order also to be more eco-friendly in our development. Is from the beginning foresee that we don't need to import marble from Italy. There is marble in Indonesia, beautiful quality. A lot of elements that we can do here with the products and material that have been, that are available in Indonesia.
Boutique hotels. I will back to that question because it's particularly interesting. Why do you believe in the boutique hotels are the next? It's a good idea to invest, yeah. But before that, boutiques coming often with the luxury, right? Luxury is not quite often going alongside with the environmental sustainability. How to balance these things? What is more important for the investors?
I would say today guests are also more interested about sustainability. But what is sustainability? I always have this question and this thought about sustainability. Like I myself personally, I've been investing in some sustainable. It was at the beginning in 2010 or between 2005 and 10, and it was the beginning of social and responsible funds. So and I was like, wow, that's interesting because it's more, sustainable. Sustainable is a huge word. I know that there's this SDGs from the UN, which I found really interesting. That gives a framework to how we can integrate sustainability components to our developments or programs. How can we connect sustainability and luxury? Well, first of all, in waste management. Like you need to have a proper waste management system in order to not pollute the environment around you. So for me, sustainability is first of all environment. If we talk about laundry system, etc., you need to think twice about what kind of strategy you will use for this kind of demanding centers. And on the other side, you also need to be connected with your community. So for us, we have, I give you an example, it's a CSR program. So basically a percentage from our revenue will be reallocated to limited number of initiatives. Because one of the biggest mistake that I've seen is like people want to go everywhere. And they want to do education, and they want to do health, and they want to do river cleaning and beach cleaning, and at the end of the day, even if you have limited resources, so when you have limited resources, you need to allocate where you can have the highest impact. So for us, we know, for example, that we're in Nusa Penida. Okay, what do we have in Nusa Penida? We have an amazing coral preservation and maritime. It's a protected maritime zone. So if we can help to maintain this, we will do. So we will allocate a portion from our revenue for this system, in the under the environmental bracket. Water is life. Like this is something that you can see most of the biggest billionaires now are investing in water. It's not for water is life. Like there's nothing else to say. So if we can help clean waters and provide clean water to the communities around us, that will be one of our key direction. And the other element will be potentially agriculture. How can we have a sustained agriculture, like permaculture, or a lot of different elements that we can use, but we don't need to go too far. We can link this one with education, and we can provide hydroponic systems, just to provide and bring some diversity. So these are the elements where we want to gravitate. And the last one is, of course, sometimes health is the issue, of course. Sorry. So we try to bring, to help elderly people to have better conditions. So these are basically three are quite interconnected. One is a bit more social, and we will focus on these elements. This is for Penida. I'm not saying these angles would be the same that we might use for Lombok or for other locations. We might focus on something else because we will feel that there's a higher need in another area of focus. And at the end of the day as well, when we talk about luxury and boutique hotel hospitality, I would say that people are looking for experiential elements. They want to feel that we are taking care of them. I think that boutique hospitality is just the true new way to say hospitality. Hospitality is like, I want to take care of you. You're my guest. I can do all the best to make you feel comfortable and to make you at ease and peaceful and tranquil, etc. So, and I think that we've been in a running world where, okay, guest figures, and at the end of the day, we feel it as well. So I think that, of course, if the guests see that you also have and you try to bring a genuine impact to the community, they will just help themselves as well. We can have this CSR fund where guests will be invited to also commit financially. Or potentially we can also find ways for them to come with us and see what we're trying to do. And it might also inspire them to do something on their own. And this is how I can see the link between luxury hospitality. It doesn't even need to be luxury. It can be part of all different type of segments of hospitality and sustainability. That's the link that could be created in a way, yes.
For the investors,
yeah.
seeing all of those now popping numbers, especially if we're talking about Bali and Canggu, and all developers are trying to attract with all this huge ROI. How much interest do you see from the investors themselves for the impact funds and for the green bonds? Like, how much are they willing to prioritize more conscious project compared with, for example, what is on the market mostly now here in Indonesia?
I think that we are still at the beginning. I think that the awareness is really limited. And basically, it's really complicated to go and say to a developing country, now you need to be green. It's like, I wasn't there 60 years ago during the Industrial Revolution to tell you, hey, Ford, you cannot produce cars like that, you know? So, like, it's a balance, and it's not an easy one. I think that we should aim, in general, for a neutral carbon footprint. I think that there are mechanisms that could incentivize companies to be more, to be greener. Not the greenwashing, but a true green impact. And sometimes there are some elements, for instance, that are not really helping at the moment. And I can give you an example. Like, we wanted to install solar panels, and we realized that the regulation was really complicated. And whereas in other countries you receive incentives and tax deductions, I was just looking at, like, okay, what kind of tax incentives do we have if we create a green real estate product, if we want to be off-grid, or if you want, and there was none, at least at my knowledge today. So I would say it's kind of part of education. If you educate investors on the fact that if they are green, they have better social and financial impact in a way, but they receive help and subsidies, like incentives from the government. Of course, they will go to this niche. This is what happened in Europe as well. Yeah. Like, they wanted to have a green growth. Of course, like every industry and was a bit concerned about that. But at the end of the day, after a few years, let's say 10 to 15 years, we started to see the impact. Like, people were going green. And at the end of the day, we have this planet. We need to take care of this planet. I think it's today more part of a personal initiative than a general mandatory initiative. And although we have, of course, UN, we have a lot of international directives and political, let's say, strategies. I think that it's still more of a private mindset than something more global, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately, yeah, it's running on a personal will.
Exactly.
Mainly, like there is not a big motivation for the wider audience to start to implement anything, even though waste management in Bali. Unfortunately, today we are collecting the garbage, tomorrow we are not collecting the garbage, but what the people are supposed to do with that, no one knows. If there would be a chance for you to change one regulation to make the investment environment in Indonesia more attractive, what would you do?
Oh, yeah. um, Interesting. The thing about Indonesia is like it's a power force of resources. So mining and all these elements, like, and we cannot say to you, you cannot do that. Like, basically, it's normal. It's feeding a lot of different technologies all around the world, and so and so. So I would say two angles. We are talking about the minimum investment required in Indonesia to create your own company and to develop something. It's about $600,000, 10 billion rupiah. So I would say that having this high requirement, because I think that people consider that this is small money. It is not. Like if you go to Europe, like and you try to assess. I'm talking about Europe because, of course, I've been living there and working there. And you say, okay, like you need to bring equity, 600,000 euros or whatever, in order to start a project somewhere. Like most of the people don't have this money in their bank account. So I would say to facilitate a absorption of mid-scale to upper scale investors that are not the institutional investors, but still that are bringing external currency, that are creating jobs, that are developing, that are merging with the communities and culturally creating synergies. I would probably reduce this amount, probably to half of it or even less. So it creates an incentive for people to come here and to invest here. Of course, I can understand that there's a kind of protectionist element to it, because we don't want a lot of different nationalities to come here and take the jobs of Indonesians, etc. I understand that, and I understand why also we put this threshold. But it's a challenge, and I would say that, like, yeah, maybe there's some business line that need to be following a certain type of regulation, etc., to protect some jobs. But at the end of the day, probably if you wanna open your economy, you need to facilitate the arrival of external capital to the country, and by putting these thresholds, it's blocking these elements. The administrative as well element can be sometimes a bit complicated for international investors. So sometimes they see that it's not that simple to create a project and a company here. So I would say maybe, I think a good idea will be, and it just came while we were talking about it, to create kind of an investor portal, that facilitates the whole thing, like from legal to tax to zoning, for example, if I talk about real estate. But it can be related to a lot of different businesses. That could be one of the elements that would be interesting to see from an investor perspective. And the other one would be to give as well to foreigners, like the same kind of rights that we give to local investors, which we have in general, but sometimes it might be a bit complicated. And to create incentive programs, like, for example, if you invest on green energy, okay, you have these subsidies. I don't know, maybe recently they created new elements in this area of investment. But in real estate, from my perspective, I don't see that much. So we would like to see a bit more, like government programs that will support the creation of real estate programs. Yeah.
No, because especially if we're talking about the green initiatives, it's requiring some certain higher investment in the beginning, right? And then if you can spread them over the years with some incentives and support from the government, it's going to be just much more easier to convince everyone, right? All the stakeholders to actually implement those things. Ilyas, my last question about your company, MMI Advisors. How can you be helpful for the clients? What clients you're usually working with, and what you can do for them? Like, what are you doing for them?
First of all, we help understand basic questions. I think that we try to overly complexify elements, and for me, the first thing will be, okay, what do you want to do? Like the 5W, basically. So we try to really answer the back to basics, and then starting from there, we evolve. So how we can help usually is creating a structure that is safe for everyone, and the structure depend as well on who is the investor, and what do they want to do. Like all of these questions always come back. So we structure deals. We support on the marketing of these deals, so we can create all the investment memorandum, pitch documents, because sometimes like all the money is not available. So we can support them as well on the fundraising. Of course, this takes a lot of time and energy. Fundraising is a roller coaster of emotions. So sometimes it can be a big yes, and then there's a problem for whatever reasons. Funds cannot be unblocked from different regulations. So it's always something that is quite challenging. And on the other side as well, we can help connect with a lot of different stakeholders that intervene in the ecosystem. So it can be from architect, interior designers, engineers. So once actually we get to understand what is the product that you want to develop, of course, then we present a short list of people, and depending on how we're involved in the project, we can like basically be kind of the team leader, and we represent the owner and the investor, and we are basically the guys here on the field. Participating at the meetings, making sure that everything is moving in the right direction, highlighting challenges, finding solutions, being proactive in delivering and at the appropriate timeline. So this is how we try to help our investors and our clients. And yeah, and hopefully in the future we see more projects. But also, for instance, our time is limited. Like, for example, I know that I have a certain number of projects that I can take, and I will not take more than that, except if I have different partners that enter the game as well.
Interesting. Thank you very much for your time. It was a very insightful. Thank you.